Hi, I'm Patricia, a 28-year-old marketing exec, and I've got a story that might hit close to home for some of you. It all started on a sunny Saturday at the annual William Advertising Company picnic. You'd think it'd be a time to unwind, right? Wrong. There I was, watching my dad, David William, the big shot CEO, fawning over John, the company's shiny new hire. John, my boy, that presentation you gave last week was outstanding. You've got a real future here, Dad boomed, clapping John on the back. I rolled my eyes so hard I nearly saw my brain. John had been here for 5 minutes? Meanwhile, I just secured the Pearson account, a major win, but apparently that wasn't worth a mention. Thanks, Mr. William, John said, soaking up the praise like a sponge. I clenched my teeth, vowing to prove my worth. Little did I know, this moment was just the beginning of something much bigger, something that would change everything. For now, though, I had a picnic to survive and a father to impress. Wish me luck. Something told me I'd need it. After that disaster of a picnic, I threw myself into work like never before. I landed a massive project, rebranding for a major tech company. If this didn't impress Dad, nothing would. I was knee-deep in spreadsheets when my assistant Tom knocked on my office door. Hey, Patricia, got those reports you asked for? John's team just sent them over. Thanks, Tom. I'll take a look. As I flipped through the reports, something felt off. The projections looked too good to be true. Pulling up old data for comparison, I froze. No, this couldn't be right. I dug deeper, cross-referencing everything. It wasn't just one report, it was a trail of falsified data and plagiarized ideas. John had been conning everyone. Fuming, I marched toward my dad's office only to pause when I heard voices. The door was slightly ajar, and curiosity got the better of me. David, we need to talk about John, Linda, Dad's longtime colleague and John's mother, said, her tone tense. What about him? He's doing great work, Dad replied. That's not what I mean. He's asking questions about his father. A long pause followed, and my stomach dropped. No way, Dad muttered. David, we agreed never to tell him, Linda said. I know, but he's not stupid. He's noticing how you treat him compared to Patricia. People are talking. My head spun. John, my half-brother. It explained so much, but God, it hurt. We can't let this get out, Dad said. Think of the scandal. Think of Elena. That was it. I stumbled back to my office, struggling to process everything. My whole life felt like a lie. I needed answers. Grabbing my phone, I called my mom. Hey, sweetie. Everything okay? Mom, I need to see you. Can you come over? An hour later, we sat in my living room. Mom's face was etched with worry. Patricia, what's wrong? You're scaring me. I took a deep breath. Mom, I know about Dad and Linda. I know about John. Her face paled. Oh, Patricia, is it true? Is John my half-brother? Tears welled in her eyes as she nodded. I'm so sorry, honey. We never wanted you to find out like this. How long have you known? Since John was born. Your father, he made a mistake, but we decided to work through it, for your sake. Anger and hurt boiled over. For my sake. Do you even know how Dad's treated me all these years? Always comparing me to John, like I'm never good enough. I've tried to talk to him, Patricia, but what, Mom? You just let it happen. Let him favor his secret son over me. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Please, Patricia, you can't tell anyone about this. It would ruin our family. The company. Ruin our family? Newsflash, Mom. It's already ruined. It has been for years. I stood up, pacing. And what about John's fraud? Yeah, I found out about that too. He's been falsifying reports and stealing ideas. Are we supposed to keep that quiet too? Mom looked shocked. Are you sure? Dead sure. I've got proof. She buried her face in her hands. Oh God. David can't know you know. They'll think you're just trying to discredit John out of jealousy. Jealousy? He's a fraud, Mom. He's hurting the company. Please, Patricia, give me some time. Let me talk to your father. We can figure this out without exposing everything. Fine, I said through gritted teeth. You've got 1 week, Mom. After that, I'm going to the board with what I know about John's work. The family stuff. I'll keep quiet about that for now. Mom exhaled in relief, but I wasn't done. I want you to know something. I'm done trying to impress Dad. I'm done comparing myself to John. From now on, I'm doing this for me. The week Mom asked for flew by, and I was no closer to figuring out my next move. Sitting on the information felt wrong, but exposing John meant risking everything. My career, my family's reputation, and the company's future. I needed backup. I called Susan and Mike, colleagues I trusted implicitly, and arranged to meet them at a cafe far from the office. "Okay, Patricia, what's with the cloak and dagger routine?" Susan asked as we settled into a corner booth. "Yeah, you're starting to freak us out," Mike added. I took a deep breath. "I've uncovered serious fraud at the company. John's been falsifying reports and stealing ideas." Their jaws dropped. Mike leaned in, his voice low. "Are you sure? That's a heavy accusation." "I'm sure. I've got proof, plenty of it. But there's more. Personal stuff I can't get into. Let's just say exposing John could blow up in all our faces." Susan narrowed her eyes. "What aren't you telling us, Patricia? Trust me, it's better if you don't know. But I need your help to build an airtight case, one that focuses solely on his professional misconduct." Mike nodded slowly. "I'm in. What do you need?" For the next week, we worked tirelessly, gathering evidence and triple-checking every detail. The tension at work was unbearable. Dad was on the warpath, suspicious and snappish. "Patricia, why aren't the Johnson reports on my desk?" he barked one morning. "I'm still reviewing them, Dad. There are some discrepancies." "Discrepancies? John's team handled those." "Are you saying he made a mistake?" I bit my tongue. "I'm just being thorough." He scoffed. "Be thorough faster. We can't all coast on our laurels." John wasn't faring much better. His confidence had evaporated, replaced by furtive glances and venomous glares in my direction. Late one night, I was grabbing coffee in the break room when Linda cornered me. "I hope you know what you're doing, Patricia. Some secrets are better left buried." I turned to face her. "I'm just doing my job, Linda. Maybe you should have taught John to do the same." Her eyes flashed. "You have no idea what you're messing with. Back off while you still can." "Is that a threat?" She smiled, cold and calculated, before walking away. Later that night, I received an anonymous email. My hands trembled as I opened the attachment. Financial records exposing years of Dad's shady business dealings. This wasn't just about John anymore. The entire company was built on lies. I stared at my screen, feeling sick. This was bigger than I ever imagined. There was no going back now. The truth was coming out, one way or another. The investigation felt like it dragged on for an eternity, though it was only a few weeks. The tension in the office was suffocating. Dad avoided me entirely. John was a nervous wreck. And Linda? If looks could kill, I'd have been 6 feet under. Finally, the board called for a company-wide meeting. My palms were clammy as we filed into the conference room. The head of the board began, his voice steady but grave. "After a thorough investigation, we've uncovered significant misconduct. Effective immediately, John William is terminated." A collective gasp rippled through the room. John shot to his feet, face red with fury. "This is bull." "Sit down, Mr. William," the board member snapped. "We're not finished." The room fell silent. In light of the extent of the fraud and the apparent lack of oversight, we are also calling for a vote of no confidence in David Williams' leadership. Dad's face went pale as the words sank in. He turned to me, his eyes a mix of anger and betrayal. I couldn't meet his gaze. "Furthermore," the board member continued, "we'd like to appoint Patricia William as interim CEO. Her integrity in bringing this matter to our attention, along with her proven track record, makes her the ideal candidate to lead us through this transition." My head spun. CEO? Me? This wasn't what I wanted, was it? The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Dad cleared out his office, John disappeared without a word, and suddenly I was left to pick up the pieces of a shattered company. One evening, as I was working late, again, there was a knock at my office door. I looked up to see Dad standing there, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. "Patricia, can we talk?" I nodded, bracing myself. I owe you an apology," he began, his voice thick with emotion. "I've made so many mistakes. The affair with Linda, the way I treated you, I was wrong about everything. I wanted to feel something, anger, satisfaction, anything, but all I felt was emptiness. It's too late, Dad. Way too late. I know, he sighed, his shoulders slumping. I just hope someday you can forgive me. As he turned to leave, I called out, Dad. He paused, looking back. I don't hate you. I don't need your approval anymore. The months that followed were grueling but rewarding. We managed to save the company, rebuilding it on a foundation of honesty and hard work. Mom and I grew closer, both of us healing from years of deception. Dad faced multiple lawsuits and lost most of his assets in the divorce. Last I heard, John was struggling to find work, his reputation in tatters. Tonight, I'm meeting Susan and Mike for drinks. As we chat and laugh, I can't help but reflect on the wild journey that brought me here. It wasn't easy, and God knows it wasn't pretty. But for the first time in my life, I feel free from the need to prove myself, free from the shadow of my father's expectations. I raise my glass to honesty, hard work, and writing our own stories. Would you have exposed John's fraud, knowing it could destroy your family? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hi everyone, I'm Pamela Collins, a 32-year-old interior designer based in Chicago, known for my modern minimalist designs. I first met him at a luxury property showing. Mark Anderson, with his perfect smile and tailored suits, was everything I thought I wanted. He was a successful real estate developer who could charm anyone in the room. I've never felt this way about anyone before. Pamela, you're different from all the rest, he would say, melting my heart during our whirlwind 6-month romance. God, I was so naive. The red flags were there from day one after our wedding, but love truly makes you blind. His ex-wife, Margaret, was always around, always had some emergency that needed Mark's immediate attention. Baby, she's just going through a rough time. You know how messy divorces can be, he'd reassure me every single time he rushed to her aid. Pamela, darling, that centerpiece arrangement is interesting. Margaret always had such an eye for these things. My mother-in-law, Amanda, quipped during our first family dinner, never missing a chance to compare me to Margaret, always with that fake smile plastered on her face. Don't take it personally, Rachel, Mark's sister, would say. Mom's just old-fashioned. Later, I would learn Rachel had been feeding Margaret information about every aspect of my life. Thank God for my best friend, Megan. Something's not adding up, Pamela. The way they operate, it's like a well-oiled machine designed to break you down. Megan, being a private investigator, noticed things others missed. Mark still has joint accounts with Margaret. That's not normal for divorced couples, she pointed out, her words echoing in my head when I discovered their shared credit cards. Family gatherings were the worst. Amanda would host these elaborate dinners where Margaret was always invited. She's still family, they'd say. I'd sit there, watching them share inside jokes and memories, while I felt like an outsider. Margaret was just telling me about the charity gala she's organizing. Pamela, dear, what have you been up to, besides decorating? Amanda's subtle digs became more frequent. Then I met Marcus at a business event. You're Mark's new wife. Interesting. Margaret never mentioned he was officially divorced. A look in his eyes told me there was more to the story. The emergencies with Margaret became more frequent. Her car broke down, she needed help with paperwork, she was feeling down and needed support. Pamela, you need to be more understanding. Margaret's been part of this family for 10 years, Mark would say, making me feel like I was the problem. But little did they know, I was starting to see through their perfect facade. Megan was gathering information, and I was keeping detailed records of every incident, every manipulation, every lie. They thought they had me cornered, playing the role of the naive new wife, but they had no idea what was coming. Could you bring us some more tea, sweetie? Amanda's voice dripped with fake sweetness. I walked into the living room, tea tray in hand, and froze. There was Margaret, standing in my wedding dress. The one I'd worn just 8 months ago, posing for the annual family photos. What the hell is going on? My hands shook as I set down the tray. Oh, Pamela, don't make a scene. It's a family tradition, Mark interjected in that condescending tone I had grown to hate. The Anderson women always wear this dress for the spring photo shoot. Family tradition. This is my wedding dress. I bought it with my own money. You're being hysterical, Amanda chimed in. Margaret wore it last year, and Rachel the year before that. Last year? You weren't even divorced then. The room went silent. Rachel quickly grabbed her phone, probably texting Margaret updates about my meltdown. That night, I couldn't sleep. While Mark was showering, I checked our joint accounts. Something wasn't adding up. $5,000 to VA Interior Consulting every month. Margaret didn't even work in interior design. Hey Em, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. Megan's voice was concerned when I met her for coffee the next day. I need you to look into something. Mark has been making regular payments to a company I've never heard of. Already on it. And Pamela, there's something else. His business dealings are sketchy. Like really sketchy. That evening, Mark's phone buzzed while he was in the shower. A message from Margaret popped up. Miss you, baby. Thanks for handling the dress situation. Your wife's face was priceless. My hands trembled as I scrolled through their conversation. Dinner dates, hotel meetings, joint bank accounts. Pamela, huh? You seem stressed lately. Perhaps this business of yours is too much to handle. Amanda's comment at Sunday dinner made Rachel snicker. I'm just worried about her, Rachel said later, hugging me. You know you can tell me anything. The same Rachel who had been forwarding my private texts to Margaret. I discovered credit card statements in Mark's office, Margaret's shopping sprees, spa treatments, even her rent, all paid for by my husband. Marriage is about trust, Pamela. Why are you going through my things? Mark caught me with the statements. Trust? Like paying your ex-wife's bills behind my back. She's going through a rough patch. You're making something out of nothing. Nothing. Like the hotel charges on your card when you were supposedly at business meetings. You're paranoid. This is exactly what happened with your last relationship. You always create problems where there aren't any. He was trying to make me doubt myself. But I wasn't that naive anymore. I've been documenting everything, the secret payments, the manipulative texts, the gaslighting. You should be grateful, Amanda said at yet another family dinner. Mark is such a caring man, helping Margaret through hard times. Most wives would appreciate such compassion. I smiled and played along, letting them think they were winning. But with every revelation, with every lie exposed, their perfect little world was on the brink of collapse. Megan's investigation was uncovering more dirt than I had ever imagined. They had no idea what was coming. You're not going to believe what I found, Megan said, spreading documents across her office desk. Those luxury developments Mark brags about. They're all shell companies. He's been taking investors' money and funneling it through fake construction projects. My hands trembled as I sifted through the paperwork, bank statements, wire transfers, fake contracts, all pointing to millions in fraud. But wait, there's more. Megan continued, pulling out another file. I found their divorce records, or should I say, the lack thereof. Pamela, Mark, and Margaret never legally divorced. Their paperwork was never filed. The room started spinning. So my marriage is technically invalid? They're still legally married. A sudden knock at the door made us both jump. It was Marcus, Margaret's ex. I've been trying to find the right time to tell you this, he said, settling into a chair. Margaret's been planning this for months. She never wanted the divorce. This whole thing, getting close to your family, playing the victim, it's all been a scheme to get back into the Anderson fortune. The Anderson fortune might not exist much longer. Megan interjected, pulling up more documents. Mark has been embezzling from Amanda's family trust. Millions transferred to offshore accounts, and guess who's been helping him? Rachel. Her signature is all over the paperwork. My sister-in-law wasn't just a spy, she was neck-deep in the fraud. The property sale in Dubai, Marcus added. That was their big play. They convinced Amanda to invest her entire trust fund. I had been recording everything, every gaslighting conversation, every manipulation. Hidden cameras in the living room caught Mark and Margaret's secret meetings. My phone recorded Amanda's veiled threats. You're just confused, Pamela. Maybe you need to see someone about these paranoid delusions. And then Mark's voice played back from another recording. We need to get you out first, Megan insisted. I've already contacted my bank. We can move your assets to new accounts they can't access. That night, I quietly packed a go bag while Mark was at yet another business meeting. The hidden camera in our bedroom had caught him and Margaret there just last week. Everything's ready, I whispered to Megan on the phone. The cameras are set up in every room. I've backed up all the evidence to secure servers. The FBI is very interested in those real estate schemes, she replied. And the IRS has some questions about those offshore accounts. I acted normal at dinner with Amanda, who was as condescending as ever. These headaches must be so hard for you, Margaret, she cooed across the table. Thank goodness Mark is here to help. Of course, Mother. Pamela understands, don't you? Rachel smirked. I smiled back, thinking about the evidence I had of her forged signatures on trust documents. Absolutely. Family comes first, right? Later, I overheard Mark on the phone. Everything's set for the Dubai transfer once Mom signs those papers tomorrow. I slipped away to text Megan, it's time, set everything in motion. They thought they had the perfect plan. The manipulative ex-wife, the controlling mother, the two-faced sister, and my fraud of a husband. But their house of cards was about to collapse, and I would be there to watch it burn. The next morning, I stood up in the middle of Amanda's meticulously planned family brunch. I've called this family meeting because I have something important to share. I stood at the head of Amanda's grand mahogany dining table, my hands steady for the first time in months. The whole family was there. Mark, Margaret, Amanda, and Rachel, all wearing their usual smug expressions. First, let me congratulate you, Margaret, on your 10-year wedding anniversary. I began, my voice steady and clear. I clicked a button, and their actual marriage certificate appeared on the projector screen behind me. Still legally married to Mark, I see. That's ridiculous, Mark started, his face flushing. Save it, I cut him off. Here's your attempted divorce filing, never completed, never filed. Which means our marriage, Mark? Completely invalid. Bigamy is still a crime in Illinois. Margaret's face went pale, and Amanda clutched her pearls, her eyes wide with shock. This is absurd, Amanda sputtered. Oh, I'm just getting started, I said, turning to face her. Let's talk about the Dubai investment. Another click showed a series of bank statements on the screen. Your entire family trust funneled through shell companies. Want to guess where the money really went? Asterisk Mark would never. Amanda tried to defend, her voice cracking. Show them, Marcus, I called out. Marcus stepped into the room carrying a stack of files, full documentation of the fraud scheme. Margaret's signature is all over everything. She never stopped being involved in the business, did she? I turned to Rachel, my sister-in-law. And you, Rachel? Those forged signatures on the trust documents? The IRS is very interested in those. You can't prove, Rachel started, but I cut her off by pressing play on the security footage. The room filled with the sound of Rachel and Mark discussing the fraud in explicit detail, followed by Victoria admitting to the marriage scam. Amanda's own daughter stealing from her accounts. The FBI is outside, I announced as sirens wailed in the distance. They're very interested in your real estate schemes, Mark. And the IRS is too. Pamela, honey, we can work this out, Mark said, trying to approach me. Like you worked out stealing my identity for business loans? That's federal fraud, by the way. Everything happened fast after that. The FBI stormed in, handcuffing Mark and Margaret. Rachel broke down, confessing on the spot, while Amanda fainted as soon as she saw the real numbers showing her emptied accounts. 1 year later, I'm sipping champagne in my newly expanded design studio. My company, Phoenix Designs, just landed a contract with the Ritz-Carlton chain. The irony? I'm redesigning the same hotels Mark lost in the fraud investigation. Mark is now serving 15 years for multiple fraud charges. Margaret is facing separate charges for bigamy and investment fraud. Their mugshots made quite a splash in the society pages. Rachel lost her job at the investment firm and was barred from the industry. Last I heard, she's working retail. Amanda? She had to sell her mansion after losing everything to Mark's schemes. Now she's living in a modest condo, a far cry from her previous luxury lifestyle. As for me, I just made Forbes' 40 Under 40 list. My story of surviving fraud and building a successful business caught Hollywood's attention, and there's even talk of a movie deal. Sometimes I drive past Amanda's old mansion, now owned by a tech billionaire who hired me to redesign it. I think about that day I served tea while Margaret wore my wedding dress. They thought they were breaking me. Instead, they made me unstoppable. The best revenge isn't just success. It's watching karma deliver the justice they never thought would come. What would you have done if you caught your spouse's ex wearing your wedding dress? Would you have walked away quietly like I initially did, or confronted them immediately? And do you think I was right to gather evidence first, or should I have exposed their schemes sooner?